Meanwhile, in another corner of the Triverse, just through the portal, lies the Mirrorverse, a realm where every shadow tells a story. This one is about the Salvage Inc. crew. The dawn broke over New Earth with twin suns inching above the horizon, casting long dual shadows that danced over the metallic hull of the Requiem as it pierced the planet's atmosphere. Inside, the mood was a mix of tense anticipation and weary relief. Commander Rin's gaze was fixed on the forward screens, where the landscape unfolded in swathes of green and rust red, colors that told stories of a world reborn through human ingenuity and alien technology. "All right, team, brace for landing." Rin's voice was calm, a stark contrast to the thrumming of the engines as the ship descended. Beside her, Nicordus, the ship's engineer, clutched the arms of his seat, a ritual of his during every landing, no matter how smooth. Falir, stationed at the navigation console, quipped, "Hope we don't stir up too much dust. I just got everything cleaned before we left." Monger, the Mechron crew member, was the first to unstrap, its servos whirring softly. "All systems appear stable. I am ready to assist with the beacon deployment." Rin nodded, stepping out of her chair with the poise of a seasoned leader. "Let's not waste any time then. We've got a beacon to deploy." Through the terminals on the Requiem, Rin surveyed the area. "This spot will give the beacon maximum coverage over the new growth areas," she declared, pointing towards a clearing surrounded by young alien foliage. Nicordus responds, "All right, let me just link this datapad up with the beacon that's waiting in orbit for deployment." The tension on the Requiem's bridge is palpable. Nicordus, with his datapad now synced to the beacon's controls, announces the crucial final steps to ensure a safe landing. "Okay, calling it down to the planet," he says, his voice steady despite the high stakes. Moments later, the beacon begins its rapid descent, hurtling towards the planet's surface. The sight from the ship's viewing port is awe-inspiring. The beacon, encapsulated in a shimmer of atmospheric friction, blazes like a meteor. Firing retro thrusters in 3, 2, Nicordus counts down, pressing the final sequence on his pad. The beacon responds instantly, its thrusters igniting in a powerful burst to slow its fall, transforming the fiery descent into a controlled landing. As it touches down on the alien terrain, a cloud of dust billows around it. Then Nicordus notices that the beacon landed slightly of target, grumbled, "Yeah, and it just had to land at the highest point, didn't it?" Looking at the beacon having landed on the ridge of a steep cliff. "Consider it your daily workout," Falir shot back. The task on site later was meticulous. Every sensor, every transmitter had to be perfectly aligned. Monger's precision was invaluable, its mechanical arms moving with fluid accuracy that complemented the human hands at work. As the final piece clicked into place, Rin stepped back, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow. "All right, Curie, you're up," she called out, activating her communicator to link with the AI. Curie's voice, ever calm and metallic, responded through their wrist devices. "Acknowledged, Commander. Initiating final terraforming protocols now." A low hum vibrated through the ground, almost imperceptible at first, then steadily growing as the beacon lit up, its panels emitting a soft blue light that pulsed rhythmically. The air seemed to shimmer slightly, charged with potential. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Falir mused, his eyes not leaving the beacon. "Like watching a new star being born." "More like a new world," Rin corrected softly, pride evident in her voice. Their moment of reflection was cut short by an unexpected mechanical whir. Curie, interfacing directly with the beacon, triggered a previously unseen compartment within the AI's science module unit to slide open, revealing the cryopod containing a human. The pod was sleek, its surface a seamless reflective black that seemed to absorb light. Through the transparent lid, they could see the figure of a woman, her features delicate and eerily perfect. "Didn't expect that," Nicordus remarked, peering curiously at the pod. "Curie, any data on this?" Rin asked, her tone mixing curiosity with a hint of concern. "No records available, Commander. This does not appear in any of my core databases," Curie replied, her confusion mirroring their own. Monger moved closer, its sensors scanning the pod. "Life signs are stable, if you call them that. She's entirely synthetic." Falir knelt beside the pod, his brow furrowed. "Well, we can't just leave her here. Looks like we've got another mystery on our hands." Yeah, another one, Nicordus quipped. Rin nodded, her gaze lingering on the sleeping synthetic girl. Let's get her back to the Requiem. There's much to do, and it looks like our mission just got a bit more complicated. Falir replied with, That's the understatement of the century and you know it. With a newfound sense of responsibility, the crew carefully moved the cryopod to their ship and stowed it away, as they had other more pressing matters to attend. Back at the ship, the interior of the Requiem was abuzz with activity, the hum of machinery and the low chatter of its crew filling the air as they set about integrating Curie with the ship's systems before finishing her terraforming mission. As the integration went smoothly, it was soon time for the beacon. With the beacon now active and pulsing steadily on the planet's surface, Curie was finalizing everything, an act that would mark the beginning of a fully sustainable ecosystem on New Earth. As Rin watched the displays flicker with data, Curie's voice echoed through the command module. Initiating final phase, adjusting atmospheric processors and calibrating bioregenerative systems. Her tone, if one could call it that, was devoid of inflection, yet it carried a weight that had everyone's attention. Sounds like you're about to cook up a storm, Falir commented, eyeing the readouts that showed increasing levels of atmospheric pressure necessary for a stable environment that would last them centuries. Curie responded, the lights of her console blinking in a steady rhythm. Meteorological adjustments are indeed part of the process, Falir. Nicordus, who had been checking the power allocations to ensure Curie had all she needed, gave a half grin. Good luck, Curie. As the crew busied themselves with their tasks, a soft, whirring sound interrupted the focused silence, a sound none of them had heard before. They turned towards the medical unit where the cryopod containing the synthetic girl had been placed under observation. To their surprise, a panel on the pod had slid open, revealing a series of controls and a digital display flickering to life. What now, another surprise? Rin muttered, approaching the pod with a cautious curiosity. Seems like she comes with a manual, Falir quipped as he joined Rin by the pod, his hands hovering over the controls, hesitant to touch anything without understanding the consequences. Curie? Any insight into this? Rin asked, keeping her eyes on the flickering screen that displayed a language none of them recognized. Any idea why this isn't in English? I am currently interfacing with the pod systems. The language is not in my database, but I can attempt a real-time translation, Curie replied. As Curie worked on translating the text, the crew took the opportunity to speculate about their mysterious guest. Do you think she's like us, human, or more like him? Nicordus nodded towards Monger, who was standing by silently, its sensors directed towards the pod. Monger turned its head slightly. She is synthetic. However, her design is far superior to my construction. I detect elements in her construction that resemble technology from the Requiem. That doesn't simplify things, does it? Nicordus sighed, rubbing the back of his neck as he stared at the pod. Suddenly, the screen stabilized, and text began to scroll slowly so that all could read. NHI Prototype Synthetic Humanoid, Paradox Series 1. If you are reading this, the awakening protocols have failed. So, she's a prototype, Falir mused aloud. From Nova Heavy Industries? Rin leaned closer, her finger tracing the edge of the pod. Curie, how can we deal with this? It appears that the girl's systems are locked in a diagnostic loop. Maybe you could try to turn her off and back on again? Curie mused. Nicordus looked between Rin and the pod. So, we're to play old-school technician for a synthetic that might be as complex as the Requiem? Rin nodded firmly, her decision made as she met the gaze of each team member. We've handled being ported halfway through the galaxy, onto a starship unlike any other, made friends with a Mechron, went on board of a legendary ship and found a half-terraformed planet. We can handle one synthetic human. Her confidence was infectious, rallying her crew into action. All right, let's get to it. Falir, you and Monger handle the diagnostics. Nicordus, make sure our guest doesn't drain the ship's power away from the portal core trying to wake up. We have no idea how much power her batteries can draw. Rin ordered, her voice firm yet filled with a thrill of challenge. As Falir and Monger prepared to initiate the reset, the air in the Requiem was thick with anticipation. This was uncharted territory. Every action now was a step further into the unknown, each decision a stroke in the broader picture of humanity's saga among the stars. Their journey had taken them from salvagers to terraformers, and now, perhaps, to caretakers of a new form of life. As they worked, the boundaries of their mission expanding with each passing moment, the Requiem hummed softly around them, a steadfast vessel cradling them into the future they were still writing. The lights of the Requiem dimmed momentarily as Falir and Monger initiated the reset sequence on the girl's pod. The synthetic humanoid inside remained still, her features serene even in the midst of technological turmoil. The diagnostic tools linked directly to the pod displayed a flurry of data. Values flashed rapidly across the screen in a chaotic dance of numbers and graphs. "Looks like we're in for a wild ride with this one," Falir muttered under his breath, his fingers nimbly adjusting the settings to stabilize the readings. Monger's robotic voice filled the small space with an odd sense of calm. "The initial assessments indicate that the prototype systems are incredibly sophisticated. There are layers of encryption and security that I have not encountered before." Rin, leaning against the bulkhead with folded arms, watched the process intently. "Any idea what's keeping her asleep? It's like she's locked away in her own mind." "The systems appear to be in a protective lockdown," Monger explained, its head tilted as if in thought. "It may be a safety mechanism." Nicordus, who had been silently monitoring the power distribution to ensure no surges threatened the ship's systems, chimed in from across the room. "Safety mechanism, huh? More like a failsafe in case things went south. Makes you wonder what we might be waking up here." Falir glanced at Nicordus with a wry smile. Or who they were preparing for. Maybe Paradox isn't just a name. Maybe it's a warning. Paradoxes are usually unstable. As the hours ticked by, the crew worked tirelessly to peel back the layers of her firewalls. Despite their efforts, the synthetic remained unresponsive, her existence a puzzle box that resisted every attempt to be opened. Meanwhile, Rin decided to dive deeper into the archives they had recovered from the solemn Vanguard. With Curie's help, they accessed logs that hadn't been opened since the last days the Vanguard was operational. The data was fragmented, but what they could retrieve painted a stark picture of desperation and the ship's race against time. According to these logs, the Vanguard was part of a fleet designed to break through the mechanoids' blockade around our solar system, Rin read aloud to the group, just like Curie explained last time, her voice echoing slightly on the bridge. "It seems Paradox was meant to be some sort of mediator or negotiator in case the humans perished, created to deal with potential alien diplomacy, not requiring the normal human food and air, never aging, but still being human to carry out the ship's main mission, fighting for its legacy and terraforming a new planet for human life." Falir raised an eyebrow, pausing his work. "A negotiator that doesn't wake up isn't much use in negotiations, is she?" "Unless the negotiation was meant to be very one-sided," Nicordus offered, his tone grim, not knowing that what he just said was spot on in what the Vanguard had done during its operational life cycle, not knowing that the ship had her on board, maybe even more, who knows. The crew pondered this new information, the implications hanging heavily in the air. If Paradox was indeed a tool of negotiation, what had been the terms she was meant to offer or enforce? Their reverie was broken by a sudden spike in the pod's activity. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered as Paradox's systems came alive with an unexpected vigor. "She's waking up!" Falir shouted over the cacophony. All eyes turned to the pod as the lid began to retract slowly. Inside, Paradox's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of a deep, shimmering silver. But instead of sitting up or speaking, she remained perfectly still, her gaze fixed on the ceiling of her pod as if she saw something beyond it. "Monger, status?" Rin called out, stepping forward cautiously. "The lockdown has been lifted, but she is not fully operational. It seems she is in a state of semi-consciousness, possibly processing her initial programming," Monger reported, its voice betraying no sign of the tension that gripped the rest of the crew. Rin nodded, her gaze never leaving Paradox. "Keep monitoring her. Let's all be ready for whatever comes next." Sometime later, the soft hum of the Requiem's systems was a constant background noise, a reminder of the delicate bubble of technology that sustained them millions of miles from Earth. In the relative quiet of the ship's night cycle, most of the crew had retreated to their quarters, save for Rin, who tried to stand vigil on the bridge. Paradox lay still in her pod, her occasional movements minimal but monitored. Suddenly, An alarm shattered the calm, a shrill, piercing sound that echoed through the corridors. Red lights flashed as the ship's AI, now Curie, swiftly reported, "Activity detected in the engineering bay." Rin was on her feet in an instant, her sleepiness washed away by adrenaline. "Curie, visuals!" she commanded, her voice cutting through the blaring alarms. The main screen flickered to life, showing interior camera feeds. The engineering bay was empty, or appeared to be, but a shadow moved just out of camera range, a fleeting glimpse of something or someone unauthorized. Nicordus and Falir emerged from their quarters, fastening their utility belts as they ran. "Party crasher?" Nicordus asked, his tone light but his eyes serious. "Or something left over from our last stop," Falir added as they met Rin at the bridge. Rin pointed to the screen. "We have a situation. Something's down there and it's not showing up on sensors. We need to go manual." Armed with handheld scanners and their usual equipment, the trio descended into the lower decks, their footsteps echoing in the otherwise silent ship. The alarm continued to blare intermittently. As they approached the engineering bay, Monger's voice came through their comms. "I am unable to ascertain the nature of the intruder. It appears to be avoiding all of my standard detection methods." "That's not exactly comforting, Monger," Nicordus muttered, his scanner sweeping the dark corners of the bay. The bay doors slid open with a hiss, revealing the vast room filled with the hum of machinery and the faint smell of ionized air. The crew stepped inside, lights from their gear casting large, eerie shadows against the machinery. "Split up. Quietly," Rin instructed, her voice a whisper. "Communicate only if necessary. We don't know what we're dealing with." The crew nodded, each taking a different path through the labyrinth of the engineering bay. Falir moved towards the power units, his scanner emitting a low beep as it searched for anomalies. Nicordus headed to the ventilation systems. Rin stayed at the door, peering through the glass. Minutes passed, a tense game of cat and mouse as they searched the engineering bay. Then Falir's voice crackled over the comms. "Got something here. It's like a distortion. Can't get a visual, but my scanner's picking up a definite presence." Rin and Nicordus converged on Falir's location, finding him standing before one of the main power units. His scanner pointed at what looked like thin air. "See? There, 30 meters in front of us. It's like the air is shimmering," Falir said, gesturing with his device. Rin observed the distortion, a faint visual warp that seemed to pulse slightly. "Curie, any ideas? Maybe it's friendly?" Curie's response was hesitant. "The data suggests a cloaking device, possibly mechanoid technology. It's consistent with stealth tech in my database from previous encounters." "Great. Invisible, possibly unfriendly." "Just what we needed," Nicordus said, eyeing the distortion warily. Rin responded over the comms. "Could be friendly? Hold on, let me join you." Just as Rin joined them, a blast from an invisible weapon struck her right between the eyes. If it wasn't for her portable barrier field generator absorbing the shot, her head would no longer be attached to her shoulders, making her to hastily seek cover while mumbling, "Okay, definitely not friendly." "Let's box it in," Rin decided, signaling to Curie, "Deploying barrier force fields around target." The AI replied, closing off the area around the distortion, tightening the perimeter until the shimmering air was contained within a small, visible cube of energy. "Whatever you are, you're not going anywhere now," Falir said, watching the trapped anomaly. The crew maintained their vigil, the force field humming softly in the quiet of the bay. They had contained the immediate threat, but many questions remained. What was this intruder? Was it a remnant of mechanoid technology, as Curie suggested, or something else entirely? And more importantly, what was its purpose aboard the Requiem? The atmosphere inside the Requiem was now charged with tension and a humming barrier field. The crew prepared for the interrogation of their captive entity, now securely contained. The shimmering distortion had not dissipated, hinting at the sophistication of the technology they were dealing with. Rin stood before the containment field, her arms crossed, watching the fluctuating air that marked the presence of their invisible intruder. "All right, let's figure out what you are and what you want," she murmured, more to herself than to the anomaly. Falir, equipped with a variety of sensors and diagnostic tools, approached the containment field cautiously. "I'm going to try and disrupt the cloaking mechanism," he announced, adjusting the settings on a barrier shields from the Requiem. Nicordus watched with a skeptical expression. Just make sure you don't blow out the entire grid, Falir. We don't need any more surprises. Ignoring the remark, Falir adjusted the settings. A low beeping filled the room, gradually increasing in pitch until, with a pop, the air within the containment field cleared, revealing their stowaway. Curie was right. It was a mechanoid. Its body was sleek, with panels of shimmering metal and glowing particles that traced complex patterns across its surface. The mechanoid's eyes flickered with a light that was unsettlingly sentient. Monger, who had been analyzing the data streams from the encounter, chimed in. It appears to be equipped for reconnaissance, but its design is far more advanced beyond the current profiles we Mechron have on them. Rin stepped closer to the containment field, her gaze locked on the mechanoid. You're a long way from home. Why are you here? The mechanoid remained silent, its eyes shifting slightly as if assessing its situation. Falir tweaked the settings some more, sending a burst of energy through the containment field. This time, the mechanoid spoke, its voice a metallic echo that filled the room. I am designated Scout 7 in human terms. I seek the Vanguard. The Vanguard? Rin echoed, confusion evident in her tone. It's gone. Destroyed. What do you want with it? Incorrect, Scout 7 responded. The Vanguard is in this solar system. It carries technology essential to the mechanoid directive. It must be reclaimed. Rin sighs. Wow, very straightforward. Curie, you know anything about this? No, Curie responded firmly, but I don't have access to my Vanguard databanks. Nicordus exchanged a glance with Rin. Looks like our ghost ship was more important than we thought. Rin's mind raced as she processed the information. The Solemn Vanguards has so far not given much secrets away, but they had assumed its importance died with the ship. Clearly, they had been wrong. Your mission is outdated, Rin tried again, her voice firm. The Vanguard is lost, whatever it was carrying. Scout 7's lights pulsed. Then I will complete the reconnaissance of this vessel and its occupants and then find the Vanguard. Falir adjusted his settings, a frown forming. Not if we have anything to say about it. Monger spoke. Huge power buildup detected from Scout 7. Caution advised. With a swift motion, Rin signaled Falir, who sent a powerful surge through the mechanoid systems. Scout 7 froze, its lights dimming as it shut down. Breathing a sigh of relief, Rin stepped back. Let's keep it offline and secure. We need to figure out exactly what it was after and why. As they secured the deactivated Scout 7, the implications of its presence were not lost on them. If the mechanoids are active in this system, searching for something from the Vanguard, then they were far from safe on this new Earth. The Vanguard's secrets, whatever they were, they had to figure it out. The crew worked through the night, securing Scout 7 in a reinforced containment unit and poring over the data it had tried to collect. Their mission had taken on a new urgency. The mystery of the Solemn Vanguard was now a puzzle they needed to solve. The planet and the synthetic girl had to wait. As dawn approached, casting a pale light through the windows of the Requiem, Rin looked out at the stars. The challenges ahead were daunting, but she knew her crew was ready. Whatever secrets the Vanguard hid, whatever threats lay in wait, they would face them together. But that Triverse story will have to be told another day. If you've stuck with me up to this point, a heartfelt thank you. I'd also like to take a moment to remind you that my entire channel is dedicated to the Triverse and its enthralling mechanoid saga. While many of the stories stand alone, allowing you to dive in at any point, crafting these narratives takes about 4 or 5 days each, so your patience is greatly appreciated. If you find yourself enjoying what you see, consider exploring more of my videos. Each one, in its own unique way, weaves together more of the overarching story I'm telling.